Hi, it's Tracy, and welcome to day one of the Save the Crafty YouTuber video hop. I'm so excited to be your next stop along the way. Over the next 5 days, a group of talented crafters of all different styles and levels are coming together to celebrate card making videos and tutorials. By doing this, you get a chance to discover other amazing card makers who work hard making videos for you to enjoy. All you have to do is watch, like the video, consider subscribing, and click the link in the video description below to hop to the next video. Let yourself be inspired. Don't be afraid to comment because we have tons of prizes to give away. The more videos you comment on, the more chances you have of winning. Please indicate if you are located in the USA or international so that prizes can be awarded appropriately. Some of the prizes, not all, have restrictions on them. So let's get started. Today I'm using the gorgeous Altenew Festive Poinsettia to create a clean and simple watercolored card. I'm by no means an expert with watercolor. I consider myself in training. I started off by stamping and white embossing the large poinsettia image on some Tim Holtz watercolor paper. I like using this paper because of the bright white color. I emboss most images that I watercolor because it forms wells to help contain the water from going where you don't want it to. I really give my watercolor panel a good wipe with my embossing buddy to minimize the stray powder, which will definitely show up as soon as you start adding any type of color. Whenever I'm embossing, I always like to double stamp my embossing ink to make sure I'm getting a fully stamped image. There's nothing worse than after embossing you see that there's part of the image missing. Another tip I got from a friend is that I use a board covered with foil when I emboss my images. They save my fingers from getting burnt, and I also think it helps reduce the warping. I have a clipboard from the dollar store that I wrapped in foil and keep it handy. I tape my projects down with another board with painter's tape before I start adding water. This also minimizes the warping, and I find once my project is dry, usually the paper is relatively flat. I used Catherine Pooler inks to watercolor with today. These inks are vibrant and react beautifully with water. I have a white laminated sheet of paper that I use as a palette to lay my ink on for watercoloring. I laid down the inks I'm going to use: Coral Cabana, Tiki Torch, Lime Rickey, and as you'll see later on, I also used some Party Dress and Limoncello. I added water to the first color I was going to use, and then using a small paintbrush, I think it's a number 2, I added some water to the first section I was going to work on. By pre-wetting the image when you add the watercolor, the paper does a lot of the work for you, and just moving the brush around images seem to color super fast. The beauty of watercolor is the unpredictable, and often mistakes can either be hidden or look intentional. If your color goes somewhere you don't want it to and you catch it before it dries, adding some clean water to it and picking it up with a paper towel often saves the day. Once I finished watercoloring my image, I really wanted to add some more depth and dimension to it, especially with images that are embossed in white. They need a little something extra to make them pop. I went back in with some Party Dress ink, which worked really well with the Coral Cabana, and then I also added a little touch of warm yellow with Limoncello ink. When you add additional color to images you've already colored, you want them to dry a bit before adding more ink so you don't just end up with the two colors meshing together and making a new color. Adding it once it's pretty much dry makes a new color really stand out. Now the hard part. I need my panel to dry before I can do anything else. I could just wait and leave it and go grab a coffee, but no. Being far too impatient to wait, I hit it with my heat tool to cure it, but also very carefully because I didn't want to risk warping the paper. Now, carefully remove the painter's tape so that you don't rip your paper. I find watercolor papers in general rip very easily, probably because of all the fibers. I trimmed my panel down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I stamped my sentiment from the Altenew Bountiful Branches set with VersaFine black ink. Again, I double stamped to make sure I got a good impression. This is important to do with watercolor paper because sometimes the surface is not completely smooth. I added foam tape behind my panel before adhering it to a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch top folding card base. So there you have it. A watercolor card that still falls into the clean and simple category. Lots of white space, breathing room, and a beautiful end result. Thanks so much for joining me today on The Hop, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. You'll find the next stop on the hop below in my description, as well as a complete link list of the products that I used today for my cart. Don't forget to check back every day this week since there are 5 theme days of video hops, and don't forget to comment for your chance to win along the way. You never know when you're going to discover your next favorite YouTuber. Bye!